Read The Nuclear Terrorist by Robert Gleason and learn that war on terror architects Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld promoted the fraudulent attack Iraq rationale. They're making atom bombs in order to gobble up oil fields for domestic crony profits. As they demanded heavy military budgets against dangerous, radical Mideast and Asian rogues, benefiting one set of arms contributors, Rumsfeld's and Cheney's own companies had spent years marketing nuclear technology, directly boosting atom and hydrogen bomb making capacity of Saudi Arabia, home of 14 9/11 killers and number one world terror bankroller, and of Pakistan, overflowing with implacable haters of America and allied professional terrorists and world number two proliferator. The president's businessman even selling bomb potential to crazy North Korea, since publicly panting to fry American cities with their now finished missiles and bombs. Getting tired of me hammering my same point? Limitless corruption and profits, plus 10 million degree explosives, tempt men to menace their own families with Holocaust. I've already mentioned that Bill Clinton leaned on his State Department to waiver its rule that no American company can supply certain worrisome nations with missile guidance technology. Just after his high-tech buddy pumped $600,000 into his campaign, doubtless demanding this exact quid pro quo. So now China, world's biggest threat every time we jack military spending, aims its missiles a lot closer, if not right down your chimney. Scared now? Pay up, sucker! Mr. Gleason extols historian Arnold Toynbee, who researched 15 of the most awesome power civilizations ever. Every one self-destructed precisely as we are doing. Leaders pressing generations of personal and crony-enriching, far-flung weapon, army, and war bonanzas, taxing citizens into irreversible debt and poverty, and killing the rest in unnecessary aggression or consequent defense. A world of enemies, created and abused, eventually, angrily surged from afar into each rotting, dissipated bully nation, crushing guilty leaders and innocent inhabitants alike inside the empty eggshell it had become. I wonder if at least a few citizens in each of these doomed dynasties, discerning their leaders' web of venality and death, conceived of the same laws to stop the horrors I discuss with you. Would their tyrannies have killed them for attempting free speech and opposition? With no such fear, do you still plan to stay inactive and silent? I've looked for decades for authors who advance beyond their smoking gun military and political and commercial conspiracy histories to overtly suggest the hard-nosed reform imperatives so ridiculously obvious. I've searched for anyone in power who knows, cares, and speaks. With few exceptions, they all stayed silent. And thus Greek majesty died, and Huns sacked overextended Rome. Soon, New York City and Washington, D.C. are due to explode with uranium enriched by technology we sold to a world of enemies we made with our worldwide wars. 100,000 eggheads since the Dark Ages promoted the same pathetic plan. Wise, ethical thinkers, some nearly as impressive as moi, will finally educate and persuade a cadre of students, become leaders into a new morality of public service. voluntarily abstaining from escalating us to genocide despite available weapons and cash money both piled to the moon. New ethics without removal of evil opportunity by strong new law? Yeah, right. Good luck with that. In 1 of 100 nations, leaders and citizens are so inspired, but minus the voluntary idiocy. People demand and jurists and legislators enforce bans on financial coercion of leaders and deployment of large attack forces to invade other nations. In the other 99 nations, people are denied these basic human rights their bio-families know and give. But public communities either will abandon or must legally enforce. If only asked nicely to be good by preachers and intellectuals, leaders more than content with laissez-faire jungle law they deliberately designed, laugh uproariously at, "You should, please, so you'll feel better in the morning." When a true activist decides to do something for the care of the mentally ill, respect and rights for downtrodden races, protection of the young, old, or female, or any other cause of care to replace abuse, he or she explores and illuminates problems and solutions, and then demands action from citizens and professionals with legal and legal reform responsibility until a new architecture of science, society, and law stops the abuse cold, enforced by many new allies, frankly coerced by new rules well before being converted to new public ethics. In short, skip the song singing or finger wagging at miscreants. Kick ass and take names. Don't musingly await Mr. Wolf's restraint due after depression or nuclear winter freezes over. Do get after solid new law to defang and declaw the bastard quick-lack, as my Southern Fried football coach used to say. Reform's glorious ladder reaches higher, but still lacks the final life and death rung. Life or death rung. Defeat of national government corruption and militarism. My 50-year campaign, admittedly small time, is always met with, "You're right, but the powers that be will never relent or change." I say, I'm pressing the plan to make 'em. I think, but don't say, you're dispirited and apathetic and don't plan to lift a finger to help. Neither do I say, don't tell me you don't see what these clowns have in store for your kids and grandkids in the unlikely event that they survive. Now, I should be seriously discouraged. 10,000 years of a billion power mongers and killers building governments to suit. Does 1 of a billion push and fight for confiscation of their physical, financial, political, and military implements of destruction? And doesn't it boil down to those family values they love to bullshit us about? Not that typical public peace theorists have any better grasp of family law. "Oh gosh, there's Junior dancing around with a sharp object." "Wouldn't you rather run and play some other time, dear?" Never mind Jesus. What would you and I do? How about grab the damn scissors? Ignore or retreat, or intervene and enforce. Hello? Anybody home? I want to start a think tank to explore and publish the history, present, and future of murder-for-profit domination of governments, along with every other private interest that captures politicians and regulators to make them crush public safety, solvency, and equality for a buck. Then we'll get a couple of constitutional lawyers to use each story's clash with our founders' laws of justice and peace to sue in federal courts for the similar but updated laws we're gonna need to stay alive and halfway happy. Once these are mandated, legislators will damn sure work for us, not arms amalgamated. They'll restore and strengthen humane government with just and compassionate laws. In The Nuclear Terrorist, Mr. Gleason reviewed many Bible or other religious stories of greedy, violent opposition to God's laws of love, almost always about raising hell for money, leading us towards Armageddon. He judged these great religion stories of evil as a summary description of the devil incarnate, old Beelzebub himself, not as a trigger puller, sword wielder, nuclear button pusher, or any of the other four horsemen, all those waywards being merely manipulated employees. The real boss, the Antichrist, revealed by Gleason's religious research, is a financier and profiteer of the apocalypse. But before I incite you to hate anyone simply addicted to instinctive but confused, technology-twisted pleasure, please understand that a man with unusually aggressive instincts and perhaps excessive appetites, plied with limitless graft and ferocious weapons, is himself a feckless pawn whose professional passion is still largely inspired by love and perhaps excessive support of his wife and children. So let's change certain laws to guide him to loving public boundaries and priorities. Kind men in a devilish system rather unconsciously hasten our disaster and deaths, ever urged on by corporate welfare enthusiasts who insist that the business of government is business. And what an awful lie that private advantage promotes democratic public virtues such as equal protection. Everyone knows that profits first and only is the law of the jungle. Kill it and eat it. Public duty of government, the very word meaning constraint of abuse, must be equal love and care for all, weak and strong, same as family law, which also means no hurting and killing allowed for power, profit, or pride, only in mortal self-defense. Now communists, fascists, and even socialistic liberals can wreck economies by public infringements and takeovers of businesses. Why burden powerful and glorious when benign capitalism with more than necessary regulation for safety? But to keep us all from tyranny, war, poverty, and extinction, we're gonna have to throw business out of government.